Well, welcome everyone. That keep business owners and CEOs up at night. And one of the big questions that always is asked is, hey, what's your end game? What happens in your business? And so you're going to sell it, you're going to keep it, you got family in it, whatever the case may be. And today we talk a little bit about that end game and what happens to business. I am really happy to be able to introduce a senior advisor in mergers and acquisition, David Olson. David, say hello.
Hi, Dave. Very happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me to talk to you about a really important subject for business owners.
Yeah, so before we dive into M&A, and it's always nice that people get a chance to know each other, and I'm a Dave and you're a David, so but tell a little bit about your background before you got into the M&A, because I think you're pretty well equipped to do what you do as far as
Yeah,
I can
well,
tell.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, before I got into M&A, I spent about 20 plus years in management consulting. I focused on business strategy, HR, sales and marketing strategy, corporate culture, and executive recruiting. And so I did that kind of work mostly with the same type of client size that we deal with now, which is called lower middle market companies, somewhere in that 5 to 50 million range. And so over 20 years experience working with the business owner on all those topics I already mentioned, really play into the M&A space very well, as far as understanding everything from the P&L, balance sheet, growth, marketing, everything that matters for the business owner as they're getting ready to go exit.
Boy, you certainly do target the sweet spot for our Vistage members in terms of just certainly the revenue. So if I was to ask you, so why does a business owner need to be thinking about M&A resource? And so why can't they just do it themselves? What's important about that here?
Well, they should first start by asking somebody that's tried to do it by themselves and find out how it went. It is
Okay.
extremely complex, very difficult. Most business owners, if they are thinking about selling, it typically happens where they get a phone call from a buyer, and then maybe they get multiple phone calls. And maybe it's private equity, or maybe it's a strategic buyer. And so the business owner is sitting there, they haven't given a lot of thought except, oh, hey, somebody wants to buy my business and I don't have a kid in the business. Maybe I should sell. Well, I guess I'll find out what they want to buy it for. And so it starts as like this journey of exploration and figure out, oh, well, what is my business worth? So they go to their CPA, and the buyer gives them an offer. The CPA tries to negotiate a little bit, help them figure out is it a good offer or not. And then they go and they sign the deal, and they spend six figures on an M&A attorney. Nobody was, they didn't have an M&A advisor like ourselves. And so 6 months later, they end up, the deal falls through for a myriad of reasons, and they're 600, they're $100,000 deep in debt from the whole process. And they started from the wrong place. So it's like anything else. You don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction. If somebody knocks on your door, Dave, and says, hey, I love your home, I'd like to buy it. You don't, go to your wife and say, what do you think? And then you just do the transaction and hope it works out. You want to go put it on the market. You want to get multiple offers on your home. You want to have somebody holding your hand and helping you navigate all the different offers. And so that's what we really do. We're almost like a realtor for the business owner, but in a much more sophisticated, scary environment.
Yeah. What I loved about BMI is that you are locally based, but you got tentacles that go out to other places. And so tell me a little bit about BMI and what your real thrust is in terms of your geography and kind of your strategies are.
Yeah, so in this world, we live in what's called the lower middle market space. So typically, you have business brokers that will be doing what's called Main Street deals. The pizza shop. all the way up to maybe larger deals that get into our space. So we live in that 5 to 50 million. And so on the upper side, we'll hit up with some other bigger firms, but we're a boutique firm. We have what's called 8 deal makers. I'm one of 8 deal makers, M&A advisors, but in the industry, we're deal makers. 8 of us from Charlotte up to New York, plopped in between, up and down the East Coast. We're not limited to the East Coast. I did a deal in California. We've got other deals and other deal makers that have done work out west, and I think we've done deals in almost every state. So we're not geographically limited, but we do get a lot of referrals that happen to be more within our region, right?
Yeah. You are local, I mean, to the greater Delaware Valley
Yeah,
yourself.
I'm in the Lehigh Valley personally.
Yeah.
Got a couple other folks in Philly, up in New York, Harrisburg. So we do have some folks in Philadelphia, down in North Carolina.
Yeah. So here's the question. Every member either wants to know, has an opinion on what it is, or is always seeking information on it. Hey, what's my business worth? And so I know that's a tough question because we're not going to solve that here, but maybe without giving out any of your secret sauce, kind of how does it work figuring this out?
No, I don't mind sharing any secret sauce. It's like making homemade spaghetti sauce, right? There's no recipe. It's just you know what ingredients go into it, and you try to blend it as best as you can. That's the same thing with evaluation. Nobody's going to be able to tell you exactly what your business is worth. You will get maybe a CPA or somebody that's certified to give you a business valuation used for banking or partnership agreements, things like that. But when it's time to go sell your company out onto the marketplace, it's wild, wild west. So the best that we do is we come up with what's called a value range. And I'll explain how we get there. And so we'll go to the seller and say, based on the financials you've shared with us, we think your business is worth between 6 million and 8 million, for example, or 12 and 15 million. We don't promise they're going to get, up to 12, or they might get 18 when we think they're worth 15. But it's just our best understanding of the market. Now, couple significant things that impact your value. So if you're a small business owner listening to this, the first thing is your earnings. So buyers looking at the earnings, period. What does that company earn? And then, like any other investment, like you're going to go put an investment in the stock market, you're thinking about your return. And buyers do the same thing with a company, just like you in the stock market. So they're thinking they typically want a return in 3 to 4 years. So they'll go in, they'll look at your earnings, and they will put a multiplier. It's called a multiple on your earnings. So if your earnings at the end of the year, let's say you have a $5 million company, your earnings are $1 million, a buyer is going to assign, they're going to say, their earnings are $1 million, and we're going to buy the company at 3.8 times earnings. So they put that multiple against your earnings. Now, multiple things, I don't want to use that word again. Many things impact that multiple. One is the size of your company. I had a seller said, hey, I think his business, his earnings were about maybe 3 million. And he said, hey, I think I can sell my company for 8 times my earnings, 21 million, or no, 24 million. And I said, well, how'd you come up with that number? He said, well, somebody else in my industry sold their company. I said, well, what was their revenue? Because this seller's revenue was maybe 15 million. So what was the competitor's revenue? Oh, they were like an $80 million company. Well, yes, the bigger you are, the larger that multiple is. So if you're a company with earnings of maybe $1 million, you might see 3 to 4, maybe 5 times earnings. If you're doing maybe 10 million in earnings, you're going to get a bigger multiple. So that's one factor. how big is your company? And there's different levels where buyers will start to ratchet up that multiple. Then it also depends on how attractive your company is. Do you have a good customer base? Is it well diversified? Do you have a good, strong management team that the buyer is going to inherit? Um, do you have a strong record of growth? Are your margins better than most people in your industry? So they're looking at maybe about 9 different factors that impact that multiple. So if you're really attractive, that multiple might go from a 4.2 to a 5.5. If you're less attractive, it might drop from 4.2 to 3.5. So that's kind of a high level way of helping you understand how buyers think about it. And it's not an exact science, but we help the seller think through that. We get industry data so we can tell them, hey, in your industry, the range is trading typically at your size between 4 and 6x earnings. So that was a long way to explain a really good question. And I hope that brings value, because that is like the number one thing that sellers are wondering. How do I figure this out? So they go spend $5,000 for their CPA. Nothing against doing this with a CPA. I would do it more when you need it for estate purposes or other planning purposes with partners. I have a client where they used a CPA firm, got a value at about 4 million. It was just what they needed to create equity opportunities for new senior management. Now, when we went to go to market, we didn't sell the company for 4 million. We sold it for 8.5 million. The CPA put a financial value of 4 million, but the market said 8.5 million. That's why it's important to use an M&A advisor like us. We got that client about 14 offers. And when you have 14 offers, the sky's the limit on what you can do in negotiations, et cetera.
Sounds like a great story. So the other question, because I'm always asking my members when they have this potentially on the horizon, and for most, succession is on the horizon. It's just a question of how far that horizon is away. So when you look at it, so when should they begin engagement with a M&A advisor?
Well, it depends on 3 factors. If you need to exit quickly for whatever reason, maybe it's health or you're just burnt out, then if you got to engage somebody like me within a year, you just got to do it. Ideally, at that time that you engage a firm like ours, most of those 9 value drivers are in a healthy place. However, to be in a situation where you maximize the value for what you sell your company, you should be talking to somebody like myself at least 2 to 3 years in advance. So oh, okay, these are the things that really matter. Oh, so I have to start recording my inventory accurately so that my true value of my business can be captured, and I capture it on the exit side. Or I know I'm running some of those expenses through my business, but I probably need to trim those back so that my earnings look higher. Remember, buyers buy on the earnings that are reported from your company. Now, we are able to find adjustments that we can make to increase the earnings, but if there's too many of those, the buyers get a little nervous.
Well, that's great. Well, unfortunately, we're a bit out of time today, but the good news is I know you're very generous of your time and willing to talk with people. Matter of fact, I think you got an event coming up, and I think you do events so that you can take a bit of a deeper dive. So why don't you tell our viewers here how to contact you? And if you want, you can tell them a little bit. I think it's something coming up on May 7th, but if those people see this after the 7th, then I know you have other stuff that's happening throughout the year. So,
Yeah, thank you for that, Dave. We try to hold a seminar or 2 a year here in the Northeast. And it's a presentation really to go deep on helping business owners understand how to do all this and be prepared. It's in person. We have a cocktail reception so we can get to have Q&A and get to know each other afterwards. May 7th is Bluestone Country Club and in Montgomery County. You can reach out to me through our website and get information about that event. We don't promote it on our website. It's typically an invitation only. But if you reach out to our firm and get a hold of me, I'm happy to send you an invitation.
Well, that would be great. All right, from one Dave to another, thank you very much for your time today. And thanks, viewers. And I hope you got some solutions to things that might be keeping you up at night. So thanks and take care.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dave. What a pleasure.